As children, many of us had secret places that we would go and visit. They were places that offered solace and curiosity that we would go to after school or maybe on a summer day. There were often leafed canopies, brambles. We'd feel the solitude of ourselves in the natural world. These were places where we could also observe little creeks as they ran, dropping sticks into the water and then watching them descend on a path, get caught up in pools and eddies and then picked up and moved by an impatient hand to further down the creek. Places we could see the currents and the bubbles and the bugs and hear the burbles and the glugs. And I was there too, playing. From these moments, I learned that when two streams merge, their contents spill into each other and get all mixed up. They change one another fundamentally, and before you can even put the words together, you realize they aren't two streams anymore. There's just one at the confluence, flowing from then on. And even if it should diverge later, its parts would be inseparable. When I think of Joseph, pray with Joseph, when I pray with Mary or imagine Mary here at this tender junction in their union and in their lives together that are coming together, I think of two streams that are joining. One stream seems to enter the story out of nowhere. It is so out of place that we almost question its legitimacy. A young woman named Mary from the town of Nazareth is told she will bear a son and that her child Jesus will be of divine origin. It seems she is of such small account that the writer of Matthew does not even allow her any words to say. The word alights, the message comes, and the story moves on. What we can also read from Luke is that Mary does not spurn or run away from this message. She sings a song of elation that now what has been out of place has an opportunity to be restored, put right, made just. This child is to be something special, is what she sings, and she knows that she is its vessel. And more than that, of course, she's his mother. She will grow him into being inside of her body, and give birth to him with her body, and feed him and keep him safe and warm with her body. This is the definition of self-sacrificial love. She will clean up after him, and then she will tell him to clean up after himself. She will hold him close and fix the cuts and scrapes of childhood and love him. She will force him to make peace with his siblings when they want to fight. She will be Jesus' example and his first moral teacher in this life, biggest and most visible influence on her young son's life. And in Mary, God is actively moving among the edges of society by choosing a woman of no special origin and a young woman at that of low social standing with virtually no power in her world. And she is understandably startled at this news of her election. God has selected someone from the outside of the normal channels to carry the truth, to bear the light. Only, of course, in God's economy, under God's gracious eye, and as in so many of Bible stories that we can read, uncommon things happen all the time. Mary's stream merges with Joseph's. Matthew takes great care to explain that that stream is full of luminaries of the narrative of faith. And that for so many years now, that stream has had to bend its path to follow the will of God. 42 generations, cascading down through time. Patriarchs and matriarchs, kings and queens, priests and prophets, Abraham and Tamar and David and Rahab and Ruth and Solomon among them, running finally down to Jacob, the father of Joseph. All those names representing stories we know of God's improbable and amazing acts of love. Together, they are a reliable record of the faith, a past with a pedigree that begs to be built on. And so from Joseph's genealogy, who could be more qualified to be the earthly father of Jesus? If God is doing something wonderfully out of the ordinary with Mary, then God is also doing something equally amazing with Joseph, working them to the same point and place from opposite directions. Do you remember how, when you were hiding out in that place of refuge as a child, sometimes you would manipulate the streams so that they could come together, put a stick in the ground and drag it across the mud and the grass, watch the water come trailing just behind until it all came together in the way that you wanted. Do you remember how satisfactory that felt? The Spirit of God cannot be tamed. It moves as it will, it turns up the soil, and it leaves the imprint of the holy in its wake. To bend Joseph's stream toward Mary's is a bit of an engineering feat, as you heard today in the reading of the gospel lesson. Mary seems to hear, receive, and be ready to move forward. Joseph, though, is delayed because he is immobilized by fear. He's worried about others talking, what they will say when they see him taking Mary for his wife if she's found to be pregnant already. He doesn't want the shame or the stigma for either of them. So Joseph needs convincing. Then comes the dream. And the stream is uprooted and relocated. Like Joseph of old, as we find in Genesis, the Joseph of the Gospel of Matthew lays down and closes his eyes and meets an angel who commands him, "Do not fear. Follow the plan. It is proceeding according to the will of him whom you follow, and all shall be well." Joseph will have other dreams, subsequent visits from messengers of the Lord to flee to Egypt, to return to Israel, to settle in Galilee. And so you might call him a vessel as well, a different sort of conduit through which the truth can also flow, and the will of God be known and followed. And that precious child and his family be kept safe. The story of God continue on. So this is the story. These are the generations. The Son of God is entrusted to the care and the love of these two persons. As they join, let us be grateful and glad for their marriage.